Hi everyone, welcome to the latest presentation in 3esi-Enersight's webinar series, Capital Management Done Right, the Impact of Integrated Workflows for Upstream Execution, and thanks for joining us. My name is Kendra Ravoy, Marketing Specialist, and here with me today is your presenter, Duncan McDonald, who's Vice President of Planning Products at 3esi-Enersight. Duncan is responsible for making sure our products meet the critical needs of our global client base along with the upstream oil and gas industry. Duncan works closely with upstream oil and gas companies and provides software solutions to improve capital management workflows with an eye on standardization and integration. During the presentation, if you have any questions, feel free to take advantage of the chat window available through WebEx, and we'll address those questions at the end. If we can't get around to your question, we'll be sure to reach out to you at a later date. Or if you have any questions after the presentation, don't hesitate to email us directly, info@3esi-enersight.com. Now that we know a little bit more about our presenter and the process for this webinar, I'd like to hand it off to Duncan for the remainder of the presentation.
That's great. Thanks very much, Kendra. So thanks everybody for joining us today. Let's just start off by talking about some of the problems with capital management and that in-year execution that we see in today's world. So every year, budget season comes around, and all of those individuals that are involved must drop everything and go through that long and iterative process of putting together next year's budget, ultimately to seek board approval. At the same time, these same individuals are required to perform their regular job, which is project managing capital projects that are already underway and were approved this time last year. Those ongoing projects, as well as the budgeting requirements, all have hard deadlines. So something has to give, and that usually means late nights and weekends. As we all know, capital operations such as drilling wells and building facilities is evergreen by nature and doesn't respect calendar years. So why is the budgeting cycle so finite and separate? The truth is a lot of this work has already been done, but by different people in different departments, such as the long-range planning group. So the individuals in the budget process are pulled away from ensuring proper execution of ongoing capital projects to perform what largely becomes a redundant exercise. Because of the disconnect, there's no way of ensuring that the resulting suite of projects that make up the budget are tied to the corporate initiatives and goals or represent the highest value projects. So during this budget cycle, there are many iterations before it is ultimately approved by management and the board. Management doesn't necessarily consider the effort required when making change requests, and these requests can really come on a whim with tight and a hard deadline, such as there's a board meeting tomorrow. In the end, a budget and forecast is essentially a report, and reports are inherently static. So if you think of this as being a report, and that is the deliverable, changes to that report require basically a complete rework. All of the items that are represented in the budget and forecast are likely at too low a level for senior management, and therefore those details end up getting lost as you roll that up to the different levels. And with that, it becomes very difficult to reproduce the same report without going through the same amount of effort as you did the first time. So the lack of standard formats creates an issue in itself. Let's think of this in the context of a single asset. Almost invariably today, Excel plays a major part in budgeting forecasting process. And as we all know, Excel is not a multi-user or a collaborative product. So each asset team generally puts forth their version of a spreadsheet, which is usually generated from other spreadsheets of their own design, and put in a format that's requested by their manager. Their asset manager then manually consolidates the data from all of the different engineers and puts it into the requested format of his or her manager, say the business unit manager. Then the business unit manager goes through the same process to gather up all the assets, and so it goes up the chain. By the time it's reached its final destination, it has been through so many machinations that the data has very little resemblance to its original source, and therefore it's nearly impossible to tie it back to those individual capital projects that ultimately make up what becomes the budget. It also is fraught with potential errors. There's no time to vet those numbers because it takes so much time to put it together. So in the end, the trust in the numbers is minimal, and quite often you'll see at a senior level, people kind of revert to their gut to come up with the final numbers, which essentially makes the process moot. The lack of standardization causes issues unto itself, especially as people join and leave the company or move from one area to another throughout the organization. All of those people must learn the new processes and formats, which are very specific to a given area. And if you're moving to a different area, you also have to train the person who is taking over your place to be able to understand what your process and your formats were. Not only is this inefficient, but it also results in individuals really owning the corporate data as opposed to the corporation owning that data. I mean, you wouldn't tell your team, your football or your soccer or your hockey team to just go out and play their individual game with blatant disregard to any playbook or strategy and just hope that it all came together. The other big problem is that this is not a one-time thing, though it is quite often thought of as such. So let's go back to that iterative and labor-intensive process of putting together a budget. Once you've compiled this budget into a desired format, which is usually Excel in the end today, the budget's presented to the board, who provide their feedback. They request different changes and potentially different scenarios. And after several iterations of this, the budget is finally approved. So this is a great deal of effort to go through once that involves a lot of different people. But the reality is that budgeting is just the beginning, and in fact, it's probably the easiest part. Once you start to execute on your capital plan, you introduce actuals and field estimates and timing changes, and so the reforecasting cycle begins, which generally sees many iterations on a monthly basis. So now, all of the individuals that are involved must gather actuals, which usually involves engaging other people in different departments to provide, bring in field estimates, factor in timing changes, update your original forecast with what actually happened, and then figure out what your forecast looks like going forward based on all of those different changes and moving parts. So you are using highly skilled and highly paid professionals to spend their time gathering the data without having any time to actually analyze it and think about, are we doing the right things? The other part of that is there's no validation on the source of data. Everybody is grabbing their own data from different sources and different people. So there ends up being a lack of trust in the resulting forecast. And that is met with some skepticism as it goes up the chain. Meanwhile, while going through all of this, the reality of getting the job done goes on. There may be different processes, such as a ready-to-drill process. AFEs must be circulated for approval. There are many people involved in these processes, and so there can be inevitable logjams without proper processes in place. With this, activity can be delayed if certain permits that are required or approvals that are required are not in place before the activity is ready to go, and this can cause some seriously costly delays, as well as change some annual assumptions, such as when things are coming on production next year as opposed to this year, which may change your exit production and assumptions. This whole process is really an interdepartmental play, and it requires a project team to work together. However, in today's world, each department is using their own tools and their own processes. There's no audit trail around this, and there's no guarantee that these processes are actually in compliance with either the corporate requirements or regulatory requirements. The bigger picture is that the harder problem has already been solved. A lot of time and energy has been put into determining your long-range plan, your corporate strategy, and now it's just time to carve out the near-term component of that and execute on it. However, this becomes generally a whole new thing in today's world, and so a budget is compiled from different sources, different systems, newly created, and has no resemblance to the long-range plan. The work that has been done in the long-range plan is ensuring that you are in alignment with your corporate strategy. The reality is all of this hard work has already been done, and now it's just time to project manage the details. But being disconnected from your long-range plan, the hard work really gets done a second time to build that budget. And it's likely different from your long-range plan, and the reconciliation to that plan is nearly impossible. There's got to be a better way. So what is capital management done right? In my mind, there are 5 key things that are required for efficient capital management. Number 1, your in-year plan is tied to your long-range plan. Number 2, three-way integration. Number 3, efficient use of all resources. 4, standardization, flexibility, and repeatability. And 5, distributed responsibility. So let's go through each of those items in detail. So first, tying your in-year plan to your long-range plan. This really just speaks to leveraging all of the work that has already been done. It ensures that your near-term plan adheres to your corporate objectives and priorities. Plus, it allows you to reseed your long-range plan with better information as it becomes available. So now your planners can monitor and adjust the long-range plan as required. Next, three-way integration. Integration is key, and we see this as being threefold. First, it's integration with source data. This is data that already exists within your organization that is related to the overall process. So we can bring that together from other systems to help manage the project as a whole. Key examples of this are AFE actuals, AFE field estimates in the context of capital management. Secondly, we see integrating those workflows. Generally, in today's world, we see those are disparate systems to plan the readiness, to approve AFEs, and where the budgeting happens. We feel bringing those all together gains great efficiencies, transparency, and again, ultimately trust in that data. So all those primary workflows related to capital management are in one place. And thirdly, there's integration with corporate reporting and other systems throughout your organization. So this is just the ability to get data out of the system in a friendly manner to support investments you may have already made in larger corporate reporting systems, or to feed other applications or processes, such as long-range planning, with the data that's resulting from your capital management process. So next we have the efficient use of all resources. So computers are good at moving data around and performing calculations, but not so good at analyzing the results, and that's where people come into play. So let computers do what they are good at, and the analysts do what they are good at. Software can do a lot of the heavy lifting, whereas people can analyze the results of that and make decisions based on those results. So let people and computers work together in an efficient manner. Next, we have standardization, flexibility, and repeatability. So you need to put in place a solution that is flexible enough to model your business and really drive corporate standards. This is all about putting the ownership of data and processes back in the hands of the organization. It makes it easier to transition people into new roles into the company and move between business units and assets. And it provides a repeatable and reliable approach that gives management confidence and trust in the resulting numbers. And finally, distributed responsibility. This is really about the person with the most and best information about the project is the one who is updating that forecast. You want to be able to provide that person with all the available information to allow them to monitor and adjust their projects as required, going back to that integration. You want to make it as easy as possible and part of their job, so it's not a huge burden and something they have to do separately in order to make reporting easier. It's giving them a tool that allows them to better manage their projects, and reporting just becomes a byproduct of that. So with this, everybody is just doing their part. Everybody is using a solution, using tools that help them better do their job, make it easier, but is all tied to your overall corporate plan. So let's compare today versus the right way. So today we drop everything, it's budget season, it's time to get the budget done. In the new world, it's an evergreen world, carving out the near-term component of your long-range plan on a continual basis and managing the details. And those results are automatically fed back into the long-range plan. No need for manual reconciliation. The old world, long nights and lost weekends. Today, solutions make managing your projects easier, and the results of that are automatically fed into self-serving reporting up the organization. No need to have a totally separate manual process of putting together a report for a whimsical request. No standard formats, everybody doing their own thing, playing their own game and hoping that the result comes together. In today's world, All the projects are managed in the same manner in the same system, bringing project teams together to work together and provide repeatable and trusted results. Today, there are constant delays waiting for paper approvals that are sitting on people's desks and getting lost in the mix. In the new world, all levels of approvals are circulated electronically with full transparency into where they currently stand. Today, actuals, estimates, all source data has to be entered, pulled together, and compiled manually. In the new world, integration is put in place, so all source data is brought into a single place to allow you to better manage those projects. So let's look at a real-world example here. This is a mid-sized company. Today is more than 150 employees. Their exit production for 2016 is going to be around 55,000 barrels per day. They operate 3 core areas in Western Canada. So since 2008, their production has grown nearly 7-fold, from around 7,000 barrels to the 55,000 of today, and they continue on that great trajectory. In 2007, they had a full paper process, mostly based around Excel and other reports, very, very manual. So in 2008, they decided it's time to change everything. And so they implemented a robust capital management solution that was supported by both new software and processes. The solution was focused on the budgeting and forecasting of the capital, the timing of that capital spend, the resulting production, and the activity counts. They integrated the actual data from their financial accounting system, such that that could be imported into the system on a monthly basis and guaranteed to match what was actually in their accounting system. They really wanted to go from quarterly forecasting to monthly forecasting, so they could have a better understanding of where they stood every day of the year and make the proper proactive and reactive decisions based on what was actually happening within the field. All of the results from that solution were then fed into a larger corporate reporting solution that they had already invested in. And those results drove financial models, executive reports, and company metrics. After realizing the success of the budgeting and forecasting piece, they wanted to introduce other related processes to streamline that part of the business as well. The first part they did was introduce a new AFE component that was tied right to their budgeting and forecasting solution. So there are more than 70 people that were involved in approving, circulating, creating those AFEs. Immediately after implementing this solution, they realized a 25% time reduction from when the AFE was raised until it was fully approved and uploaded into their accounting system. Having all of the data in one place, they decided we should introduce an accrual solution that leverages everything that we've already done. So they built integration to a field data capture system to bring in field estimates. So now we had the integration with accounting system to bring in actuals, with your field data capture system to bring in field estimates, and you already had your current forecast, estimate cost to complete built into the system. So by introducing this, the first month, they were able to take 5 to 6 people out of the overall process. And these are people that were peripheral to the whole process, but were required because they were the only ones with the information. Now we were able to dig into their information and just compile it all, again, using computers for what they are good at, and really driving and supporting a very streamlined accrual process. After realizing the success from this implementation, they wanted to get up front of the projects and introduced a ready-to-drill process, which was actually more of a request for approval process, so to support abandonments, drilling, and there are other processes to come. So this allows you to make sure that everything is in order for the execution of individual projects. Again, all in the context of your capital budget. So what we can learn from this is, number one, this evolution can be a phased approach. It is an evolution. It doesn't need to be a revolution. You can address the most pressing matters initially, and then start to phase in the other supporting processes as time goes on, and as everybody gains trust in that solution. Next, there's a huge time and cost savings by having everybody in the same system, project teams working together in a uniform manner. It provides transparency and accuracy of the data, Once again, we have put integration in place that is very much repeatable and very accurate, using computers for what they are good at, and allowing the analysts to be the analysts they are instead of the data gatherers. And aside from all of the efficiencies gained from implementing this large solution, they ended up with an early warning system. They were getting information in a timely enough manner such that they could do something about it. If you move projects from Q2 to Q4, what does that do to your exit production? You can realize that right away, as opposed to waiting to the end of the year where you realize you're overspent, you've missed your targets, and you're just starting to put together the awkward press release or report to your stakeholders to let them know that that is the case. So just in review, capital management done right. Tie your plan to your long-range plan. That hard work has already been done. Build the integration to leverage what has already been done, to integrate the data, the processes, and the results into an overall large corporate picture. Use all of the resources within your company effectively and efficiently. This is computers and people. Let them do what each are good at. Drive standardization, flexibility, and repeatability through these solutions. Let all of the individuals on the team play their roles, all working towards a common goal. So this concludes our presentation of capital management done right. I'd really like to thank everybody for taking the time to take part in this webinar, and now I'd like to open the floor to any questions.